So we have this saint today from Mexico, which originally was the Aztec Empire, particularly in the early 1400s until 1521. It was flourishing in central Mexico. And then as they were flourishing, of course, they were pagan. They didn't know who Jesus was, so they were building these grand temples and big pyramids and had this polytheistic rituals to worship all their gods. And this was very common in the parts of the world that had not yet received the gospel. But in 1521, a Spanish conquistador came and defeated this empire and brought Franciscans in to spread the faith. And Juan Diego and his wife were among the first group to receive baptism and come into the faith. And that was in 1524. In 1531, on December 9th, he was walking past this hill, which is now called Tepeyac, and he encountered a beautiful woman who told him that she was the ever-Virgin Mary, the Mother of God, and she instructed him to go tell the bishop that she wanted to have a chapel built on this hill's site. And Juan was obedient. He went to the bishop. Of course, the bishop was suspicious and skeptical and kind of ignored him. And later that evening, when he was returning home, Our Lady appeared to him again and said, did you do what I requested? He said, yes, but the bishop won't believe me. I'm nobody. And she said, go back again and tell him again. So he went back the next day and said the same thing to the bishop. And this time the bishop was more open, but said, I want a sign. I want proof. And it's kind of funny, the bishops, they don't always just operate on faith. He wants proof. So he went back and encountered Our Lady a third time and told him what he had said. And then she said, well, go back again. And while this is happening, his uncle got very sick. It was close to death. So he wound up going to get a priest instead of following the regular route he was on. And Our Lady appeared to him on this other path and said, why are you avoiding me? He said, I'm not. I'm trying to find a priest. My uncle's dying. And she said, am I not your mother? These are words for all of us. Am I not your mother? And she said, in fact, your uncle's already been healed. He's fine. Now go back to the hill and go up to the top, and there's going to be roses up there. I want you to cut them and bring them down to me. And so he did, and he gave them to Our Lady. And imagine this, they're having like an interaction where she's physically doing things. She arranged the roses in his mantle, that corn husk poncho thing. And she said, now go to the bishop and show him the roses. They were Castilian roses from Spain, where the bishop was from, and he hadn't seen them since he left Spain, and they were his favorite rose. So that was going to be the sign. There's roses from Spain growing in December on a cold hill when it's in like the 30s. So he goes to the bishop, and of course we know the rest, right? He opens the tilma, the roses fall on the floor, and he's not looking at the roses at all. He's looking at the tilma because the image of Our Lady is on the tilma. And I don't know if there's one here, but we've all seen it. It's quite spectacular. Now, that was all it took. He built the chapel, which eventually now today is a basilica, and 9 million Aztec Indians converted in 3 years into the Catholic faith. 9 million in 3 years. I mean, it's extraordinary. And the end of child sacrifice began with that conversion. That, they were sacrificing their babies to keep the gods happy. So that ended when Christianity went like a wildfire through that part of Mexico. What's interesting to me is, that was enough of a miracle for everyone to believe 400 years ago. That's all it took. But for us today, people are still skeptical, People don't believe as quickly as they should. And God has provided provisions for that. So in the last 50 years, scientists have been examining this tilma, and they've discovered that the ink is not of this world, and it hovers about 1/16 of an inch above the fabric. The fabric decays in about 20 years. It's been 400, it's still going strong. They've cut pieces out of it to examine it, and it regenerates on its own. These are all things you can't do. These are miracles. Every one of these is a miracle. And then they noticed when they did high magnification of her eyeballs, the pupils reflect everybody in the room. Very clearly, you can see the bishop and Juan Diego, his secretary, very clearly. The temperature of the tilma is always 98.6 degrees if you put a thermometer on Our Lady. And if you put a stethoscope over her womb, there's a 120-beat heartbeat of a baby. They didn't know this 400 years ago. He preserved these miracles for our generation so we would have more faith. And yet most people don't know any of this. It's just not talked about as it should. God's trying his hardest to embrace people who are lacking in faith and give us signs and miracles to bring us deeper into love with him. And he's using Our Lady to do it. And so today, we'll call somebody, tell them about this great miracle. And we're going to have it, I'm sure Father Mike will talk about it on the 12th when her feast day comes up. But today we honor this very humble little man who said, I am nobody, and through his obedience wound up converting Mexico and bringing forth one of the greatest miracles in the Catholic Church.